The demon forefather merely used a casual move and defeated the #1 expert of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage. Hearing the cursed scoundrel from Lu Zhou, Wu Nian immediately frowned. Why does the old donor curse? Although I do not know the relationship between the old donor and my master, I consider myself innocent. If possible, I invite the old donor to Cloud Illuminating Hermitage to discuss the Tao together. Farewell. After saying that, green lights appeared around the 10 nuns, centering on Wu Nian as they rose into the air. This green light was the upgraded version of the clear mirror platform, which could move with them. The circular green light ring was engraved with complex patterns and special energy fluctuations, which are one of the most commonly used yet difficult amplification methods in Buddhism. Seeing this, Duan Musheng, holding the Overlord's spear, immediately gave chase. This is Duan Musheng, the third disciple of Evil Sky Pavilion, reputed to practice the Heaven's First mantra, extremely domineering and brave. Today, indeed, his reputation is well deserved. During the chase, Duan Musheng activated the 100 Tribulation Insight Avatar. The two-petal Golden Lotus Avatar appeared beside him, the lotus petals spinning rapidly, their speed so fast that they seemed to merge into one. Wu Nian Buddhist monk swung his jade whisk and chanted a Buddhist mantra, Amitabha Buddha, break. The next second, the jade whisk suddenly shone brightly, and dense, raindrop-like forceful energy fell from the light circle. The chanting of the 10 female disciples grew louder and louder. This Buddhist method of combat was indeed novel and rarely seen, leaving the spectators in awe and shock. Duan Musheng raised his Overlord spear along with the avatar to block the rain of forceful energy, but was forced to crash back onto the flying chariot due to the immense force. I'll take over, Flowers and Moon Journey said, then fluidly drew his bowstring, and with a bang, 4 feathered arrows shot out, directly hitting the green light. An archer too? Evil Sky Pavilion is really defying the heavens. Though this feathered arrow could not break through the Buddhist clear mirror platform, it is a technique only a nascent divinity Tribulation Realm master could execute. Seeing the strike was fruitless, Flowers and Moon Journey drew his bow again, and another 10 feathered arrows shot out, like 10 golden light beams instantly hitting their mark. At the same time, Little Yuaner, Duan Musheng, and Ming Shireen flew over like lightning, the red Brahma heaven silk blooming like a huge rose. Ming Shireen's eyes were resolute, and his separation hook shimmered with an extraordinary light. Seeing this scene, Wu Nian Buddhist monk hummed lightly, this is what you brought upon yourselves. Amitabha. Several disciples understood and suddenly spread out, forming a huge circle. The light circle was thus expanded in distance, almost covering the central area of the lotus platform. Energy poured down from the circle like a tidal wave. The chanting of scriptures focused together, enveloping the surroundings with sorrow. Those caught in it had their spirits dispersed, unable to extricate themselves. The trio, Duan Musheng, were engulfed by this energy, unable to advance even an inch. Seeing the situation becoming critical, Hua Wudao was about to rise, but Lu Zhou raised his hand to stop him. I will resolve the consequences of the causes I have planted myself. The patriarch of Evil Sky Pavilion was ultimately compelled to intervene. The spectators all stood up, focusing on the unfolding scene. Scoundrel, Lu Zhou snorted coldly, flinging a spell card from his hand. At that moment, space seemed to warp, and a palm-sized character 4-bind rushed out swiftly, not with grandiose flourish or brilliant light, but like a meteor easily passing through the energy barrier. Wu Nian couldn't react in time before the bind character imprinted on her chest. The chanting instantly halted. Wu Nian incredulously plummeted to the ground, and without their leader, the 10 major disciples couldn't withstand the massive drain from the energy circle, all spewing blood and flying back 100 meters. Wu Nian's face turned pale. She tried to summon the primal energy within her body, only to find it completely depleted without any fluctuation. She crashed straight into the marble. The lotus platform fell silent, the surrounding area as quiet as if the crows and sparrows had ceased their calls. The spectators rubbed their eyes, unable to believe the scene. The #1 expert of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage was just slapped down by the patriarch of Evil Sky Pavilion. Hua Wudao marveled in admiration. The Pavilion Lord's methods truly opened my eyes. He was a well-traveled and knowledgeable person, and this body-binding divine spell could hardly be executed without extremely high cultivation. The Pavilion Lord was indeed formidable. Lu Zhou didn't speak. He leaped down from the flying chariot and landed on the ground next to Wu Nian. Wu Nian's eyes were filled with fear and disbelief, her mouth stained with blood, her face deathly pale. With a casual wave of his hand, the jade whisk flew into his palm. Ding! The jade whisk has been reclaimed and needs to be refined again before use. He looked at the jade whisk in his hand, reminiscing about the past century. Although these were just Ji Tiandao's memories, they were endlessly fascinating, as if he were reliving them. The girl who once pestered him for copper coins, discussing the Tao together on Cloud Illuminating Peak, watching the moon on Purple Mist Mountain, and observing fish at 100 Leaves Lake, each seen vividly before his eyes. Reflecting on the past, Lu Zhou sighed deeply, a sense of melancholy arising in his heart. Is Jing Yan doing well now? Hearing the question, Wu Nian seemed to remember something sad, tears uncontrollably swirling in her eyes. My master. Lu Zhou had intended to reconnect with the old nun, but unexpectedly received news of her passing. everything. Distressed by this, Lu Zhou could only sigh helplessly. Birth, aging, sickness, and death. The cycle of heavenly laws. There's no such principle as the reincarnation of all beings in the world. The greatest principle is simply to live well. Little Yuaner, seeing her master's desolate expression, became curious. Since joining Evil Sky Pavilion, she had never heard of her master having friends. Regardless of gender, suddenly a former female Buddhist monk appeared, and it seemed they had a good relationship. Master, who exactly is Jing Yan? Lu Zhou chose to ignore her curiosity and turned back to Wu Nian to interrogate. Who directed you to interfere in my affairs? Wu Nian frowned tightly, shaking her head. No one directed me. I am willing to accept my loss. Which side does Lotus Platform stand on? Betting on Heaven Sword Sect to win, or betting that Evil Sky Pavilion will eventually lose? At that moment, Wu Nian suddenly started coughing violently, a large amount of blood spewing continuously from her mouth. Seeing her dire condition, the surrounding spectators couldn't help but swallow hard, awed by the terrifying methods of the greatest demon of their time. Lu Zhou continued to ask, where is Jing Yan buried? Wu Nian answered, in 100 Leaves Lake near Cloud Illuminating Peak. After a moment of silence, Lu Zhou indifferently shook his head. I still remember that the Jade Whisk was an item recognized by Jing Yan herself. How did it end up in your hands? Answer truthfully. If there's a single false word, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Wu Nian trembled upon hearing this. She had thought that with her abilities, even if she was no match for Evil Sky Pavilion, she could at least come and go freely without having to look to others. Now, she realized how ridiculous that idea was. After my master passed away, I had no choice but to take over as the head of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage. The Jade Whisk was a gift from my master. After hearing this, Lu Zhou indifferently said, it's unfortunate for Buddhism. I will take back the Jade Whisk and strip you of your cultivation. Are you convinced? Wu Nian stared in horror. Her previous arrogance and inherent sense of superiority instantly vanished. No. As soon as she spoke, the 10 major disciples of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage simultaneously leaped into the air, converging in the center. At the same time, at a distant part of the Lotus platform, from the 3rd, 5th, and 8th pavilions, a voice was heard. The plan has failed. Everyone withdraw. After that, each cultivator in the pavilions left at high speed, leaving the Lotus platform and running far away without looking back. However, another command was issued from the 9th pavilion. Prepare to act. As the 10 major disciples of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage gathered in the air, Little Yuaner and others also made their move. The Overlord's spear roared through the air, piercing through one person. The Brahma Heaven Silk did not lag behind, killing another disciple. The Separation Hook's cold light flashed, also taking another life. Flowers and Moon Journey drew back his bowstring with all his might, shooting 7 feathered arrows formed from forceful energy, which whistled piercingly through the air and hit 7 major disciples of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage. Thus, all 10 major disciples of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage were killed. Seeing this, Wu Nian's eyes filled with unwilling bloodshot. What a sin! What a sin! She wanted to stop it, but everything happened too quickly. There was no time. Lu Zhou then raised his arm. Even though he only had the cultivation of the Divine Court realm, against someone whose cultivation was completely bound, he was an unbeatable existence. Primal energy and forceful energy converged in his palm, striking directly towards Wu Nian's energy center. With a thump, Wu Nian grunted and was thrown into the distance, rolling several times on the ground before stopping. Lu Zhou withdrew his hand, standing with his hands behind his back. The owner of the Jade Whisk is untainted by worldly dust, undisturbed by human affairs, unswayed by fame or fortune. This is a small punishment for you. After saying this, he threw the Jade Whisk towards Little Yuaner. Little Yuaner caught it and looked at it. She remembered her master had once promised to give her the Jade Whisk, and she had never forgotten about it. She had thought it was a precious item, but just thinking that an old nun had used it made her skin crawl. Master, I already have the Brahma Heaven Silk. Give the Jade Whisk to senior brother. As she spoke, Little Yuaner threw it to Duan Mushing. Duan Mushing fiddled with it, feeling it somewhat awkward to handle. The weapon in Old Fourth's hand is a mishmash. At least this Jade Whisk is better than that. Old Fourth, it's better for you. Ming Shireen widened his eyes and waved his hands repeatedly. No, this thing isn't suitable for me. Give it to Elder Hua instead. After saying this, he threw it into the flying chariot. Hua Wudao frowned slightly and shook his head. Items like a whisk are indeed more commonly used by the elderly, but he always felt that those who carried a whisk around all day were either Taoists or monks. He was neither, so what use did he have for it? Better to leave it for someone else. The female cultivators nearby were stunned. Such a good item was usually beyond reach for cultivators of their level. Whether the whisk was suitable or not, they desperately wanted it. The spectators were even more astounded, their eyes sparkling. What people pursue all their lives seemed so trivial to Evil Sky Pavilion, treated as casually as if it were trash. Truly, comparisons can be infuriating. At this moment, Lu Zhou sternly shouted, "How audacious!" Little Yuaner was startled and quickly caught the Jade Whisk that was thrown down from the flying chariot. Disciple understands her mistake. Wu Nian struggled to sit up from the ground, tears of regret streaming down her face. I was wrong. No sooner had she spoken than Luo Xingkong's body began to change color, turning dark darker and darker, as if black fire was burning on him. Heaven's Sword sect had not only sought out Cloud illuminating hermitage, but seemed to have conspired with other forces as well. The black vapor had already explained everything. Luo Xingkong continued to emit even larger amounts of black vapor. No wonder he had been injured before. This was his trump card. The surrounding spectators were stunned. What is this? The evil cultivation practiced by Luo Xingkong? Wu Nian was also puzzled, clearly unaware. Lu Zhou scanned the area and coldly uttered two words: a sacrifice? Hua Wudao recognized it as well. We should not linger here. Please, Pavilion Lord, let's move. Lu Zhou nodded and immediately led the group toward the flying chariot. A sacrifice was naturally meant to summon some powerful force. In other words, Luo Xingkong had already sold his body or soul to someone else before coming here. There must be a trap set on the Lotus platform. Lu Zhou looked around. The help he had waited so long for from Cloud illuminating hermitage was obviously not enough. Was this stronger, darker force finally going to reveal itself? The crowd below became restless. Some timid cultivators quickly fled towards the outside of the Lotus platform. Next to the third pavilion, a flying chariot sped away into the distance. It's the Underworld sect's flying chariot. Underworld sect has come. Something is not right. Underworld sect is leaving. Run fast. Little Yuaner, seeing the flying chariot of the Underworld sect, perked up. Should we pursue the flying chariot of the Underworld sect? Lu Zhou shook his head. It's too far away. Just then, the towering pillars around the Lotus platform simultaneously exploded. Centered on the Lotus platform, a black energy burst forth, interconnecting to form the shape of a demonic head. Hua Wudao explained, this is the power of the sacrifice, controlled by a great witch using puppets. Is this the confidence behind Luo Xingkong? Lu Zhou suspected that Moli was behind this, but on second thought, it didn't seem right. Moli was severely injured. How could he have the power of a great witch? A great witch is equivalent to an 8-leaf cultivator, especially after absorbing the power from Luo Xingkong's sacrifice. Hua Wudao's gaze swept downwards and he said, this manipulation technique, it seems Heaven's Sword sect has prepared for this for a long time. Lu Zhou nodded. They are just making a wedding dress for someone else. At this time, near a distant pavilion, a subordinate in a black robe cautioned Si Wuya, this place is dangerous. We should withdraw. The Lotus platform is under the control of a great witch. The cloud-piercing flying chariot can't escape. Si Wuya shook his head, indicating there was no need. Let's wait and see. The energy that shot out was like black chains, connected together, forming a huge black mesh. The spectators who had been watching started cursing as they scrambled to flee, only then realizing something. If Heaven's Sword sect dared to provoke Evil Sky Pavilion here, how could they not have any tricks up their sleeve? They were determined to take revenge at all costs. This was the courage of Luo Xingkong. Although their desperate attempt didn't succeed and there was a mishap, the sacrifice was ultimately realized. Run, run, brother, why aren't you running? What's he doing? Scared stiff? He's emitting a strange black vapor. There's another one emitting black vapor here. It's a puppet. The puppets are killing people. The Lotus platform was in complete chaos, with eerie laughter emanating from the puppets. Old demon, you can't escape. These black puppets rampaged everywhere, beginning a massacre of the surrounding people. The nearby Lotus platform was filled with flying bodies. Their cultivation was too weak to withstand this sudden change. Lu Zhou signaled the cloud-piercing flying chariot to stop, observing from above that the range of the 9 pillars was very large. The entire upper and lower parts of the Lotus platform were surrounded by the towering pillars, meaning this black net aimed to capture everyone, including the spectators in the lower half of the Lotus platform area. Hua Wudao and Flowers and Moon Journey frowned deeply. The Great Witch manipulates the puppets by increasing their power through devouring, a method that is extremely cruel. Lu Zhou sits expressionlessly in his chair, waiting for the mastermind behind this to show themselves. The moment that mastermind appears, he will not hesitate to unleash his lethal strike. A Great Witch is worth at least 1,500 points of merit. Ming Shireen spoke up. There's no need to save them. These people always enjoy the spectacle without worrying about the consequences. Their lives or deaths are none of our concern. Little Yuaner nodded in agreement. They probably didn't spare us their curses before we arrived. No sooner had she finished speaking, a cultivator puppet shrouded in black mist lunged toward the cloud-piercing flying chariot, its ferocious face like that of a wild beast. Duan Mushing, seeing this, shouted angrily, back off. He threw his overlord spear directly at the puppet, but unexpectedly, the puppet raised its arms and deflected the overlord spear, sending it spinning 360 degrees in the air before it returned to Duan Mushing's hands. Clean this up, Lu Zhou said calmly. Duan Mushing acknowledged with a shout and leaped down from the flying chariot. Ming Shireen and Little Yuaner followed suit. Flowers and Moon Journey drew her longbow, releasing several arrows with all her might. However, the puppet that was hit only staggered back a few steps and did not fall. Instead, it showed an even more ferocious expression. Hua Wudao offered a reminder, aim for their vital points. Flowers and Moon Journey nodded and once again executed her shooting technique. Hua Wudao furrowed his brows. Looking down, he realized it was not just the sacrifice, but that everyone killed was being controlled. This is not a resurrection technique. Normal cultivators mobilize primal energy to condense into forceful energy. energy and use forceful energy to move objects, achieving manipulation. Witchcraft uses formations, symbols, and rituals to mobilize the primal energy of heaven and earth to control the will of people. Xiao Yu responded, "What's the point? These people's cultivation levels are low. They can't do anything to us." Hua Wudao shook his head, disagreeing with her. The deceased cultivators need to either kill the spellcaster or be defeated by a stronger force to be resolved. They do not fear pain, are fearless, and have lost the human sense of fear. At the same time, this sacrificial formation continually draws power from the dead, accumulating like grains of sand into a tower, not to be underestimated. At this moment below, Duan Mushing's spear shadows multiplied into thousands, and after a lot of effort, he finally managed to kill one puppet. Damn, that was exhausting. Why are these things so hard to kill? Ming Shirin swung his separation hook, striking a puppet in the chest, and the next second, that puppet fell dead to the ground. Seeing this, he seemed to understand something and quickly reminded everyone, destroying the vital points works. They are already dead. Duan Mushing chuckled, "Old Fourth is smart." After saying this, he charged at the vital spots with his overlord spear. Little Yuaner playfully looked at the nearby puppets. Seeing this, the numerous puppets immediately felt a bad premonition, and soon, many puppets were continuously killed. Lu Zhou shook his head, somewhat frustrated. No notification of merit points being credited. This means the dead are cultivators below the Brahma Sea realm. Not a profitable deal. At this point, more and more puppets charged towards the flying chariot. Hua Wudao raised his hand and shouted, "Six Union Seal." The next second, a nearly solid golden light barrier instantly enveloped the entire flying chariot. The black puppets that collided with the Six Union Seal were immediately bounced off. "Pavilion Lord, rest assured, as long as I am here, I can keep the flying chariot safe." Lu Zhou nodded slightly after hearing this. With Hua Wudao's strength and cultivation, protecting the flying chariot was not an issue. The question is, with such a grand display and merely using witchcraft to control puppets of this level, is it really enough to contend against Evil Sky Pavilion? At this moment, the place where Luo Xingkong died had turned into a stagnant pool of dead water, with no trace of Luo Xingkong to be found. Although Duan Mushing and the others had eliminated most of the puppets, some were still attacking the lower-ranked cultivators who were scattering in all directions. Hua Wudao shook his head. They want to kill everyone within the sacrificial area. Such ruthless methods. As soon as he finished speaking, some more puppets lunged toward the cloud-piercing flying chariot, but still could not break through the Six Union Seal. What is that? Xiao Yu, who was in charge of the cabin and had the best view, saw the central area above where the dark energy chains intersected, flashing brightly. Lu Zhou explained, "That is the energy confluence point, the strongest yet the weakest place." Hua Wudao agreed. Indeed, he wants to use this energy to defeat us all. The terrifying aspect of witchcraft is not its power, but its erosion. Whether it's eroding the will or the body, it's extremely frightening. Xiao Yu, after listening, asked worriedly, "So what do we do now?" Hua Wudao sighed helplessly. The Buddhist Great Calming Heart spell, the Taoist Heart Purifying Mantra, or the Confucian Howren Heavenly Forceful Energy can counter it. Although Cloud Sect originated from Taoism, I have devoted myself to studying the Six Union Seal and have never studied these divine incantations, which is regrettable. Whether it's Buddhism, Taoism, or Confucianism, each has developed different paths of cultivation, and no one can master them all. Xiao Yu looked at her master and felt reassured. Don't be afraid. With master here, this kind of witchcraft won't get far. The female cultivators nearby nodded in agreement. Lu Zhou appeared calm, but internally he felt quite helpless. Without seeing the spellcaster, I am at a loss. Are we all going to crash together? Meanwhile, at a distant pavilion, a person in a black robe came up behind Siwuya to report, "Underworld sect has returned. Should we go and greet them?" Siwuya pondered for a moment before shaking his head. Will the eldest brother lend a hand? At this moment, the sound from the intersection of the dark energy chains was louder than before. The lower-ranked cultivators below felt a stronger sense of crisis and grouped together, trying to resist the continuously appearing puppets. The light at the energy chain confluence point flared brightly, drawing everyone's gaze like a new sun, so bright that it was painful to look at, and all the puppets suddenly stopped. They stood rigidly in place, with black vapor continuously rising from their bodies. Within that sun-like energy, a shadow flickered. With a roar, the powerful sonic waves rippled outward. Lion's roar sonic power. Could it not be a great witch? Hua Wudao quickly activated the 9-character 6 Harmony Seal, with 9 large seal script characters glowing brightly, blocking all the sonic waves. Ming Shirin and Duan Mushing activated their protective forceful energy and stepped back several steps, retreating behind the 9 pillars. Little Yuaner, however, was unaffected. Her cloud robe feather dress emitted a faint glow, neutralizing all the sonic power. Such a strong opponent isn't just using a single sonic power, but the shadow did not continue releasing sonic power. Lu Zhou glanced at the shadow and immediately knew it was not human because the system did not provide any information about humans. Not human? How is that possible? Xiao Yu was puzzled after hearing this. Even if it's not human, it can't just appear out of nowhere, can it? Lu Zhou looked at the shadow in the light and calmly said 2 words, Image. Hua Wudao nodded and explained, this is a type of witchcraft, and the witchcraft cultivator is definitely a rare cultivation genius. Not only is there array manipulation on the Lotus platform, but there was also a sacrificial array left on the 9 towering pillars beforehand. Every part is arranged perfectly and precisely. He had just finished explaining when suddenly a steady voice came from that shadow. Are you the master of Evil Sky Pavilion? Lu Zhou nodded in acknowledgement. Who are you? The shadow did not answer this question, but confidently said, I hope you can break this formation. Normally, in a confrontation, a cultivator would not give witchcraft so much time to prepare. Witchcraft is indeed strong, but its weakness is also clear. It requires a long preparation time. Although the spell takes a long time to cast, once successful, it is extremely terrifying. The energy chains began to tremble, and the buzzing of electricity was several times louder than before. Several purple energy orbs drifted toward the flying chariot. The disciples will block. Duan Musheng, Ming Shirin, and Little Yuan are moved at the same time upon seeing this, and the puppets also started moving. The 3 were held up by the puppets and had no choice but to deal with them, plunging the scene into chaos again. Lu Zhou took a deep breath, leveraged his foot, and leaped out of the flying chariot. By the attainment of exhaustive wisdom, I established the true samadhi. As he silently chanted, the extraordinary power of heavenly writing was summoned again, and a deep blue lotus pedestal appeared beneath his feet. Hua Wudao, upon seeing this, was shocked. This is the second time he has seen this deep blue lotus pedestal. The first time he saw this blue lotus was when Lu Zhou was in seclusion. When the blue lotus leaves burst with energy, his 9-character Dao seal couldn't withstand a single blow and was instantly shattered. Is it the power of the barrier? The only explanation must be the power of the barrier. At this moment, dozens of purple energy beams had already shot close to Lu Zhou. However, as they neared, they were all blocked by the blue lotus and the radiance around him. The blue lotus blossomed, its petals spreading outward, pushing back like a tidal wave. The light at the energy convergence point suddenly expanded. All the puppets were instantly destroyed. The shadow and the light emitted a fearful and trembling voice. This power, before it could finish, it too disintegrated into nothingness. Above the lotus platform, blue energy rained down like a torrential downpour, and the dark energy quickly dissipated until it vanished. The rain of blue lotuses gradually lessened, and the surroundings of the lotus platform became completely quiet. Lu Zhou did not look down at the scene below, but stared into the empty space in front, not hearing the sound of merit rewards. Could it be that the divine power is not strong enough, not powerful enough to instantly kill the great witch? He recalled the scene in the secret room, where Hua Wudao and the others had indeed only suffered minor injuries. But at that time, the extraordinary power he had comprehended was not in full state. This time, it burst forth in full state, and should have resulted in an instant kill, right? With so many people watching, Lu Zhou didn't think further. He felt a significant depletion of his primal energy, steadied himself in midair, and thought internally, don't freaking fall down. With so many people watching, he slowly turned around, hands behind his back, surveying the scene. Ming Shirin was sprawled like a toad on a giant pillar, and Duan Musheng was gripping his overlord's spear, nailed to the ground, his eyes showing disbelief. Little Yuaner, wearing her cloud robe feather dress, was huddled in a corner, trembling as if scared. Lu Zhou's brow slightly furrowed as he looked toward the flying chariot and noticed that its condition was not very optimistic. It was swaying and showing some cracks. Hua Wudao was kneeling near the steering wheel, his face covered in sweat, supporting the wheel with one hand and reinforcing the 6 union seal with the other. Lu Zhou felt quite helpless. These great supernatural powers really don't distinguish between friend and foe. He looked down and saw that the lower-ranked cultivators were unharmed. They had taken shelter under the lotus platform and had escaped the calamity. After the storm, when everything calmed down, they came out, looking up gratefully at Lu Zhou, who was floating in the air, appearing serene and untroubled. Thank you, Grandmaster, for saving our lives. The puppets are all dead. Grandmaster, you are my idol. Lu Zhou snorted coldly and flicked his sleeve. Now scram. Upon hearing this, the crowd quickly dispersed, eager to leave this place of trouble. Thank you. Who says the Grandmaster of Evil Sky Pavilion is utterly wicked? From now on, the Grandmaster is the person I admire the most. Meanwhile, a loud bang came from a nearby pavilion. Looking towards the noise, they saw the underworld sex flying chariot, wobbling and stumbling, flying towards the distance. The underworld sex flying chariot has been struck by your divine power, Master. I'm going after them, Duan Musheng said, and then he leaped into the air as swiftly as an arrow. Lu Zhou didn't say anything, tacitly approving his action. At that moment, behind a tree near another pavilion, Si Wuya's brows were furrowed, his eyes filled with disbelief. The power of the barrier? Master has indeed harnessed the power of the barrier. The old Master's blade is still sharp, and the righteous factions have all fled. Isn't this exactly the outcome you wanted to see? Si Wuya shook his head. On the contrary, once the power of the barrier is exhausted, what then? I understand. I will send someone to continue monitoring the movements of the righteous factions. Lu Zhou returned inside the flying chariot, and Ming Shirin responded, immediately running towards the steering wheel. Hua Wudao let out a sigh of relief, gave a slight bow to Lu Zhou, and remained silent. Flowers and Moon Journey looked on with awe. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would hardly believe that the master of Evil Sky Pavilion could be so powerful, far beyond her imagination. Master, there is a slight crack in the array pattern on the left wing of the flying chariot, which may cause the flight to be unstable. Just control the speed. Returning to Evil Sky Pavilion shouldn't be a problem. After saying this, Ming Shireen piloted the flying chariot towards Evil Sky Pavilion. Little Yuana then reminded, third brother hasn't returned yet. Let's not wait for him. Ming Shireen knew well that although the eldest brother had defected from Evil Sky Pavilion, he wouldn't harm the third brother harshly. Unable to contain his curiosity, Hua Wudao respectfully asked, may I ask, Pavilion Lord, about that blue lotus? Lu Zhou waved his hand to cut him off. All divine powers are interconnected. Whether it's Taoism, Buddhism, or Confucianism, all paths lead to the same destination. The ancients created scriptures and paths of cultivation. The later generations learn, break through, and innovate. Hua Wudao bowed deeply in respect. I am enlightened. I used to think that losing to the Pavilion Lord 20 years ago was just bad luck, but now, the gap between me and the Pavilion Lord is not just in cultivation. I am ashamed, truly ashamed. Hua Wudao sighed. Lu Zhou said no more, watching as the towering pillars receded one by one. The power of this divine move had nearly destroyed everything on the Lotus platform, but fortunately, the cloud-piercing flying chariot was behind them, protected by the 9-character 6 Union Seal. However, the Underworld Sect's flying chariot was not so lucky. Even though they were far away, there was no expert like Hua Wudao on their flying chariot, only cultivators who specialized in defensive techniques. Crackling noises kept coming from the flying chariot. The flying chariot is breaking down. Hearing his subordinates report, Yu Zhenhai's face grew tense, and he quickly ordered, don't stop at all. However, the flying chariot was already badly damaged, and even with Hua Chongyang personally steering, it could not go much faster, and the cracks in the array patterns on the chariot grew larger. Hua Chongyang promptly cautioned, leader, the flying chariot can't keep going. Yu Zhenhai's face was grave as he shouted, shut up. Even if the flying chariot breaks down, we still have to run. The scene of the blossoming blue lotus had left him shaken. He couldn't understand how his master, at his age, could still exert such tremendous power. In any case, the best option was to run as fast as possible. Hua Chongyang helplessly explained, what I mean is, we could move faster flying on our own than in the flying chariot. Upon hearing this, Yu Zhenhai immediately stood up to give orders. Hearing this, the disciples of the Underworld sect quickly jumped out of the flying chariot. Seeing that Yu Zhenhai hadn't jumped, Hua Chongyang hurriedly advised, a chariot can be rebuilt if it's gone. The second part goes without saying, if a person is gone, they are truly gone. Yu Zhenhai nodded and was about to act when suddenly a robust figure wielding the Overlord spear charged straight at him. Yu Zhenhai squinted and saw it was his third junior brother, not the master, which was a relief. He then leapt into the air, meeting the charge with one hand, his palm enveloped in robust forceful energy, blocking all the momentum of the Overlord spear. When their forceful energy collided, Duan Mushing's arm went numb, and he involuntarily smashed downward. The already unstable flying chariot, losing the influx of primal energy, also fell from the sky. Seeing this, Hua Chongyang volunteered himself. Leave it to me. Yu Zhenhai shook his head, indicating it wasn't necessary. The two stood off against each other. Duan Mushing planted the Overlord spear into the ground and looked straight at his opponent. Yu Zhenhai smiled slightly. Third junior brother, after so many years, your temperament is still the same. Where's master? Did he come? Duan Mushing, unlike Ming Shireen, spoke without mincing his words. Master has ordered me to bring you back. If you admit your wrongs, perhaps he might spare your life. Hearing this, Yu Zhenhai felt somewhat relieved. Third junior brother, your Heavenly One technique has improved a lot. If I hadn't used the great mysterious Heavenly Seal just in time, you really might have hurt me. Duan Mushing was not swayed. Cut the talk. I'm just asking you, are you coming with me or not? Yu Zhenhai sighed and shook his head. Elder brother has too many reluctances. There are many in this world who wish me dead. The righteous paths want me dead. Is there really no place in this vast world for me? Duan Mushing did not quite understand, puzzled by these seemingly random remarks. Yu Zhenhai sighed deeply. I guess you wouldn't understand. If only old Seventh were here, he would definitely understand how I feel. Duan Mushing frowned deeply. If he were here, I would be the first to capture him. Yu Zhenhai chuckled and countered. Could you really catch him? Duan Mushing was left speechless. He glanced at Hua Chongyang standing beside Yu Zhenhai. Even though Hua Chongyang hadn't made a move, he could feel that this was a master, someone far stronger than himself. Even without Hua Chongyang, he would not be able to defeat Yu Zhenhai. He had hoped to try his luck. Perhaps the elder brother would have been injured under the power of the great supernatural powers. Unfortunately, that hadn't happened. Lotus platform, Heaven Sword Sect, were you behind the scenes manipulating things? Duan Mushing asked. Yu Zhenhai chuckled lightly upon hearing that. The mere Heaven Sword Sect worthy of collaborating with my Underworld Sect? Brother, I won't hide it from you. The Heaven Sword Sect is one of our targets for annihilation. Ever since Luo Changfeng died, Heaven Sword Sect has been in decline, and Luo Xingkong is merely struggling to survive. This is a good opportunity for Underworld Sect to take him down. Duan Mushing was somewhat surprised. Do you want to help, master? Yu Zhenhai shook his head. said. I'm helping myself. As he spoke, he moved closer to Duan Mushing. Duan Mushing involuntarily stepped back. Yu Xinghai patted his shoulder. Don't be nervous. How is Master's health? Duan Mushing, looking wary, answered, very well. Yu Xinghai looked somewhat skeptical. Duan Mushing retorted, if that weren't true, why would you run? Yu Xinghai was momentarily at a loss for words, but quickly responded with a smile. Have you seen anyone run this slowly? Duan Mushing scratched his head. If I were you, I would have abandoned the chariot and fled long ago. Hua Chongyang was baffled by the conversation between the two. Yu Xinghai remained expressionless. Did Master mention me? Duan Mushing shook his head. Why would he mention you? Did he mention the second junior brother? Duan Mushing answered, no. Yu Xinghai smiled contentedly. That's good. Then, he patted Duan Mushing's shoulder. Go back. Duan Mushing looked seriously at him. Give me half a year, and then I'll fight you. Yu Xinghai nodded, watching him with admiration. It's good that you have the courage to challenge me. Go back and work hard. Duan Mushing seriously said to his elder brother Yu Xinghai, I will defeat you. Hearing this, Yu Xinghai frowned deeply and sighed. Your second senior brother said the same thing. Duan Mushing was surprised. Second senior brother's talent far surpasses mine. Has he really never beaten you? He had heard a bit about the conflict between his eldest and second senior brothers. The second senior brother had challenged many masters without defeat, and his strength and cultivation should be on par with the eldest brother. So how come they never settled their rivalry? Yu Xinghai nodded confidently. I hope you don't follow the same path as your senior brother. With that, he tapped his toe and stepped into the air. Duan Mushing watched his figure receding, momentarily at a loss for words. He considered himself talented and hardworking, yet he still fell slightly short compared to his second senior brother. If even the second senior brother couldn't defeat the eldest brother, how could he possibly do it? Eldest brother, are you sure you're not running away? Yu Xinghai's flying speed was not fast. He strolled leisurely through the air, with Hua Chongyang following closely behind. Confirming that the master was not chasing them was the best news. Hua Chongyang asked, has the Heaven Sword sect really fallen into disarray? What's our next plan? Yu Xinghai smiled slightly. Pick the softest persimmon to squeeze. How is Bai Yuqing's injury? Hua Chongyang answered, she probably won't be able to fight again within half a year. Yu Xinghai snorted lightly. It's all because I've been too indulgent with the second senior brother. Hua Chongyang shook his head helplessly. Even though they are all masters, they seem powerless in front of an elusive super master like the Sword Demon. Should I go look for Mr. Seventh? Yu Xinghai replied, no need. The second senior brother is likely still with him. Hearing this, Hua Chongyang quickly bowed his head. He didn't want to end up like Bai Yuqing, who had to recuperate for half a year after being struck by a sword, and that was considering she was lucky. Chen Wenjie, the sword fanatic, didn't even get a chance to rest and heal. He was sent to the western heavens. Half a day later, the cloud-piercing flying chariot smoothly flew back to Evil Sky Pavilion. Before they even disembarked from the flying chariot, Pan Zhong ran over clutching his chest. Pavilion Lord, Elder Hua, you're finally back. Seeing his anxious expression, Ming Shirin asked, what's the rush? Pan Zhong, red-faced and panting, said, Evil Sky Pavilion has been robbed. Ming Shirin was somewhat incredulous. Don't talk nonsense. Who would dare to steal from Evil Sky Pavilion? Pan Zhong explained, you'll have to ask Elder Lung Luo about this. Thankfully, Elder Lung Luo was here. Lu Zhou looked calm, glancing up at the barrier of Golden Court Mountain. Everyone coveted the treasures of Evil Sky Pavilion, and even though the barrier was only a third as strong as before, it was not something ordinary thieves could breach. Although his extraordinary power was depleted from the burst, his overall condition was still good. Soon, everyone arrived at the main hall of Evil Sky Pavilion. Lu Zhou sat quietly in his seat, and Lun Luo was the first to speak. The thieves who came to Evil Sky Pavilion are the 5 rats. The internal strife in Shanyuan City was sparked by the 5 rats. Back then, I ordered the 4 black cavalries to quell the chaos in Shanyuan City, and the 5 rats disappeared. I just didn't expect them to come to Evil Sky Pavilion. Hua Wudao nodded. The Shanyuan 5 rats are adept at stealing and are extremely cunning, with a reputation in the cultivation world second only to Yanzi Yunsan. However, unlike Yunsan who acts alone, the Shanyuan 5 rats prefer to operate as a group. Ming Shirin found it strange. How did they get inside the barrier? Even if the barrier of Golden Court Mountain has weakened, it's not something ordinary thieves can easily penetrate. Lin Luo continued, the reason the 5 rats excel at theft is because they possess a secret technique. Over the past decade, the 5 rats have infiltrated the barriers of many major sects to commit theft, which is why they were given the nickname 5 rats in the cultivation world. Lu Zhou nodded, recalling the scene when he captured Yanzi Yunsan. When Yunsan was caught and trapped in a cage, he even managed to blend into the ground. Every thief has their own special methods. Indeed, they are cunning. At that moment, Pan Zhong entered. Pavilion Lord, we've taken inventory, and only some trash from the eastern pavilion was taken. Someone stole trash? Nothing else was taken? Pan Zhong answered, no, perhaps they had a change of heart halfway through, got scared. After Elderling showed up, they ran away. After Lu Zhou and others left, the mountain was left with only the old, weak, sick, and disabled, so it was normal not to catch the 5 rats. This incident could be considered big or small. It's minor because nothing significant was lost, but if it's major because it concerns the barrier of Golden Court Mountain. Without restoring the barrier, even if the 5 rats were killed, other thieves would still covet Evil Sky Pavilion, especially as the barrier continues to weaken. Lu Zhou felt that repairing the barrier now was pointless. His own cultivation was not sufficient. Even if it was repaired, the righteous sects would still besiege Golden Court Mountain in a few years when their lifespan limits approached. It would be a waste to use the peak experience card just to repair the barrier. Lin Luo spoke again. There's something I'm not sure whether I should say or not. Lu Zhou nodded, signaling him to continue. Black Cavalry has clashed with the Shan Yuan 5 rats before. Their strength and cultivation are not high, and they often collaborate with others for survival. I suspect that the Shan Yuan 5 rats have a deep connection with Evil Sky Pavilion's 7th disciple, Siwuya. I heard in the early years that the 5 rats had interactions with the dark net. Today, the 5 rats went from the secret chamber through the main hall to the eastern pavilion without taking anything. Clearly, they acted with a specific purpose. The 5 rats were likely targeting the peacock feather, and having failed this time, they might attempt a second time. Ming Shirin, red-faced with anger, said, "This traitor, already bound in his cultivation, still dares to be so arrogant. I request permission to descend the mountain and capture him to face justice." Lu Zhou shook his head. "Can you find him?" Ming Shirin showed an embarrassed expression. "Last time, it took a lot of effort to follow the trail and reach Yellow Peak Mountain, where we found Siwuya. After alerting him, Siwuya will surely be cautious. How can we find him again? Especially since my own abilities are not as good as his." Lu Zhou remembered the boxes in the eastern pavilion and slowly stood up. "Let's disperse." Hearing this, everyone bowed and left the main hall. Meanwhile, in a tranquil small residence, a subordinate hurried to Siwuya, a flying letter from the 5 rats. Siwuya opened his eyes. Did they fail? If they had succeeded, they would not send a flying letter, but bring back the peacock feather instead. The subordinate answered, "Yes." The leader of the 5 rats, Bai Qing Yun, wrote in the letter that they encountered Lin Luo at Evil Sky Pavilion and had to retreat. Lin Luo, being such a proud person, Master also wants to control this person. This person once forced Black Cavalry to retreat with a single move by the slender West Lake, and the Shan Yuan 5 rats have been defeated by him, so it's not surprising they fear Lin Luo. The 5 rats did bring back this, though. The subordinate said this as he pulled a bunch of papers from his bosom. Siwuya smoothed out the papers, and a pattern of a box appeared before his eyes. Although it was just a sketch, he recognized it instantly, a faint smile appearing on his lips. "Send a flying letter to Evil Sky Pavilion." After eliminating the enemies ambushed at the Lotus platform, the old demon head Lu Zhou returned to the Evil Sky Pavilion with his disciples. The night passed quickly, and when Lu Zhou opened his system interface, he found that he had 19,380 merit points, with a substantial gain of 7,550 points from the Lotus platform journey alone. Unfortunately, he was still more than 600 points short of being able to purchase the 8 methods unobstructed. Feeling a bit eager, he decided to try his luck with the draw. Unexpectedly, after 5 attempts, all he got was "Thank you for your patronage." Knowing the system's usual tendencies, he expected that future draws would only become more challenging. Lu Zhou shook his head in disbelief and decided to save up for the avatar instead. At that moment, Zhao Yu walked in. "Master, a flying letter from Siwuya." With Lu Zhou's gesture, she opened the letter and read aloud. In the letter, Siwuya said he knew you wanted to open that box, but he had a request. He wanted the peacock feather and to undo the body-binding divine spell. After hearing this, Lu Zhou remained silent for a moment before angrily exclaiming, "Presumptuous. He overestimates himself, thinking he can make demands after leaving Golden Court Mountain." Zhao Yu sensed her master's anger and quickly spoke up. "Master, please calm down." Lu Zhou regained his composure and asked if there had been any response from Jian Aijian. It was unlike Jian Aijian not to reply for so long. Zhao Yu shook her head. "No, you may leave. As you wish, master." After Zhao Yu left, Lu Zhou looked at the system interface's mission list. The clue to the key was still not marked as completed. Recalling the memory of the box, he realized that events from long ago were becoming incredibly vague. Could this also be related to the missing parts of his memory? Having crossed through time, Lu Zhou had grown accustomed to his aged body, and with the presence of the reversal card, he wasn't worried about aging, but his memory had yet to recover. After pondering for a while without any new insights, Lu Zhou decided not to dwell on it any longer and continued his study of heavenly writing. The next day, while he was exercising, Zhao Yu approached again with a flying letter. "Master, a letter from Old 7th. I initially intended to intercept it, but the content seemed important, so I brought it to you." After saying this, she opened the letter and read it aloud. "Yesterday, I was foolish and asked for your forgiveness, Master. Although I have left Golden Court Mountain, I never intended to be your enemy. To show my sincerity, I have sent someone with the clue." Indeed, there was a nun asking to meet below the mountain. Suspecting Old 7th's intentions, I intercepted her. "Please decide, Master." Lu Zhou was puzzled. "A nun?" Zhao Yu nodded. "From Cloud Illuminating Hermitage." Hearing the name Cloud Illuminating Hermitage, Lu Zhou's thoughts raced. His memories of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage still clear. But what could Cloud Illuminating Hermitage have to do with the key? "Let her come up. I will bring her immediately. After a moment, Zhao Yu led a nun into the Great Hall. The nun bowed respectfully. Xian Jing of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage pays respects to the old master. Rise and speak. Lu Zhou responded indifferently. Sister Xian Jing slowly stood, and from her sleeve, she produced a brocade box, returning what belongs to its owner. This item was left by Uncle Master Jing Yan. Knowing that the old master was urgently searching for it, I set out early to return it. Lu Zhou waved his hand, and the brocade box flew into his palm. In the past, at Cloud Illuminating Peak, the old master left this item there. Unfortunately, many years have passed without the old master retrieving it. Lu Zhou remained silent, opening the brocade box to find an ancient, fragrant key inside. Ding! Mission Find the Lost Key completed. Reward 1,000 merit points. Lu Zhou's expression remained calm as he secured the key, asking, "What is the current situation at Cloud Illuminating Hermitage?" Sister Xian Jing sighed deeply. "I must thank the old master for punishing Wu Nian. She disregarded the rules of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage and committed many misdeeds, deserving her fate. Now her cultivation is gone, and she is no longer the abbot of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage." Lu Zhou nodded. "How did you know I urgently needed this item?" Sister Xian Jing looked puzzled. "Wasn't it the message from Evil Sky Pavilion steward?" Zhao Yu frowned deeply. "Indeed, it was that." "Traitor!" Sister Xian Jing looked confused. "Traitor?" Zhao Yu did not explain. "This matter does not concern the sister. As you have always been secluded in Cloud Illuminating Hermitage, you naturally are unaware of external affairs. If there is nothing else, please return." Sister Xian Jing bowed. "I still have something to say. The Jade Whisk is the foundation of Cloud Illuminating Hermitage, and if possible, I hope the old master..." Before she could finish, Lu Zhou interrupted. "The Jade Whisk was bestowed by me to Jing Yan. Didn't she tell you? What I can give, I can also take back." The implication was clear. Sister Xian Jing dared not make any further requests, sighed deeply, and with a helpless expression, said, "Ultimately, this issue cannot be blamed on Evil Sky Pavilion. If Wu Nian hadn't acted recklessly, she wouldn't have ended up like this. Take care, old master. I take my leave." With that, she turned and left the Great Hall. Lu Zhou returned to the East Pavilion, took out the box, and, holding the slender key, easily inserted it into the keyhole. With a crisp click, like the sound of a neck snapping, the surface of the box flashed with golden light. Witnessing this, Lu Zhou couldn't help but praise. Truly a work of ingenious design. As the light faded, the box split from the top, dividing into two halves. Ding! Obtained a fragment of the heavenly writing scroll. Ding! Obtained an ancient sheepskin map. Lu Zhou had just touched the fragment of the heavenly writing when it turned into a glow and disappeared. He looked at the system interface, where the item column indeed showed a fragment of the heavenly writing. Recalling that he had also obtained a fragment from the Azure Fall fragment, it seemed this was a fragment to unlock the next divine skill. Lu Zhou felt somewhat motivated. He picked up the ancient sheepskin map from the bottom of the box, carefully placed it on the table, removed the outer wrapping, and slowly unfolded it. The stacked sheepskin maps appeared blurry, and the map was quite large, about the size of a table. An extremely vague pattern emerged. Was it a map? At a glance, it was very unclear, but one could faintly make out that it was a map centered around Great Flame, its overall outline resembling Great Flame, though the details were barely visible. Lu Zhou stood with his hands behind his back, observing and contemplating. He knew the function of the heavenly writing scroll, but the purpose of this map was unknown. With no clear markings, mountains, or rivers visible, and after observing for a while without noticing anything unusual, Lu Zhou had no clue and stopped examining it. He decided to try his luck with the draw again. Lu Zhou acted immediately, pulling 4 more times, and as expect got 4 more. "Thank you for your patronage." Meanwhile, in a tranquil villa, Si Weia opened his eyes and murmured to himself, "Fortunately, the peacock feather is safe." He looked down at the blood-red characters of the binding spell on his chest, which showed no signs of weakening. Was this divine spell so peculiar? To this day, he had tried almost every method, but had not been able to break the spell. While he was pondering, a subordinate flew in from a distance. "Master, the great master has arrived. Please invite him in." As soon as Si Weia's words fell, he heard the hearty laughter of his eldest brother, Yu Zhenghai. "7th brother, we meet again." Si Weia stood up and bowed. "I have seen my elder brother. There's no need for such formalities between brothers. Look who I've brought with me." Si Weia followed Yu Zhenghai's gaze, only to see an old man in a Taoist robe with a very imposing presence walking in. "Master Yunshan?" Yu Zhenghai nodded with a smile. "Master Yunshan is one of the strongest in the Celestial Masters sect, especially skilled in divine spells. To invite him, I really went through a lot of trouble." Hearing Yu Zhenghai's words, Si Weia repeatedly expressed his gratitude. "Thank you, elder brother, for all your effort." At this moment, Zhang Yunshan bowed and spoke. "I have some personal friendship with the great sir, but due to the conflict between the 10 famous sects and Evil Sky Pavilion, I hesitated to leave the mountains. I hope Mr. 7th will forgive me." Speaking of personal friendship, but who really knows the true situation? Si Weia was too lazy to inquire further. "Thank you, Taoist Yunshan." Yu Zhenghai turned to ask, "Taoist Yunshan, are you confident?" Zhang Yunshan smiled confidently. "I have specialized in spellcraft for nearly 100 years. I dare not claim to be extremely accomplished, but I can break any divine spell. That's excellent. With that, they began to prepare. Siwuya sat cross-legged on the ground, and Zhang Yunshan observed him from behind for a while, then nodded and showed a confident expression. In less than 15 minutes, I should be able to break this spell. With those words from the Taoist, I am reassured. Zhang Yunshan then ceased the small talk, raised his right hand, and silently chanted a spell. A golden, oval-shaped forceful energy seal appeared in his palm, resembling characters formed in seal script. After shouting the word break, he slapped towards Siwuya's back. However, a bizarre scene unfolded. Just as his palm touched Siwuya's back, a forceful energy rebounded from Siwuya's back, striking Zhang Yunshan squarely in the chest. Zhang Yunshan, caught off guard, was sent flying backward, crashing into the base of a distant mountain. Siwuya, feeling nothing, turned his head in confusion. Yu Xinghai was shocked and quickly called out, "Taoist." Zhang Yunshan, although in pain, looked up and smiled upon hearing the call. "I'm fine. I just wanted to test the power of this divine spell, making the unraveling a bit easier." "That's good. Please, Taoist." Yu Xinghai gestured again invitingly. Zhang Yunshan adjusted his breathing, lightly leaped, and positioned himself behind Siwuya again. Having learned from the previous experience, he no longer underestimated the body-binding divine spell. What a formidable body-binding divine spell. I have unraveled many such spells, but never have I been rebounded upon. Then, two beams of golden forceful energy seals appeared, their luminescence much stronger than before. Zhang Yunshan stared intently at Siwuya's back and shouted loudly, "Break!" pushing both palms forward vigorously. At the point where the golden forceful energy seals met Siwuya's back, a vertical forceful energy cleavage burst forth. Siwuya felt the force of the forceful energy seals, and his body shook slightly. Siwuya couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Just like before, Taoist Zhang Yunshan was sent flying and also spat out a mouthful of blood, even more violently than before. Seeing this, Yu Xinghai's expression darkened, and he quickly rushed to check on Siwuya's condition. Meanwhile, inside Evil Sky Pavilion, a notification sound rang out. "Ding! For the punishment of respected disciple Siwuya, 500 merit points have been awarded." Resting Lu Zhou shook his head, delusional about breaking the body-binding divine spell. Failing to break the body-binding divine spell and being injured by the backlash is also a punishment for this miscreant. Siwuya's face was pale, and blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. Clearly he was seriously injured. He managed a weak smile and struggled to sit up. "Big brother, I'm okay. Just didn't expect this." Yu Xinghai frowned deeply, feeling guilty. After all, it was he who had brought Taoist Zhang Yunshan, and Siwuya was injured under his watch, especially since the body-binding divine spell was originally meant for him. Not only did the spell fail to break, but it also harmed him. He snorted coldly and called out Zhang Yunshan's name. Taoist Zhang Yunshan's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly got up to explain, "Give me another chance. I was careless, not anticipating the spell to be so powerful. I have never seen such a spell before. Why would it have a rebounding force?" Yu Xinghai responded indifferently. The weak always have many excuses. Feeling the tension in Yu Xinghai's tone, Zhang Yunshan asked, "What does this mean, Lord? I already gave you a chance, but you failed to cherish it." Yu Xinghai turned his back to Zhang Yunshan. Realizing something was wrong, Zhang Yunshan roared, "You promised me, as long as I could break the divine spell, the grudge between Underworld Sect and Celestial Masters Sect would be wiped clean. Are you going back on your word?" Yu Xinghai didn't waste words, but simply waved his hand. "Send him off." As his words fell, Hua Chongyang vanished from his spot and reappeared next to Zhang Yunshan. "You attempted to secretly implant a new divine spell while trying to unravel the existing one. That's why the rebounding force occurred. You deserve your fate." With a punch, Zhang Yunshan spat out blood and was sent flying. He turned to run towards the distance, but in the next second, Hua Chongyang flew above, his avatar appearing and smashing down heavily, crushing Zhang Yunshan into a pulp with one strike. Siwuya, disinterested in watching this scene, turned away and shook his head. "Why bother?" Yu Xinghai calmly replied, "I have my reasons. He wanted death. I merely facilitated it. I just didn't expect the spell to be so powerful that even Zhang Yunshan couldn't break it. You almost got hurt because of it." Siwuya sighed. "After all these years, I've seldom used force myself. 7th junior brother's magnanimity is such a waste not to be part of Underworld Sect. The role of military strategist suits no one better than you." Hearing this, Siwuya appeared resigned. "The matter of the strategist has been raised every year since I left Evil Sky Pavilion." He quickly changed the subject. "Second brother recently visited the Tranquil Residence, and he asked me to pass a message to you. He said a blade needs to be sharpened regularly to keep its edge, and he wishes to challenge you to a fight in 6 months." Yu Xinghai chuckled after hearing this. "I was thinking the same." Hearing this, Siwuya asked, "Master once said that once you join Evil Sky Pavilion, fratricide is forbidden. Everything else is unregulated. This is the only iron rule of Evil Sky Pavilion to date. Elder brother, are you really going to agree?" Yu Xinghai smiled calmly. "This time is different. I have my reasons. You should ask the second junior brother that. You are the elder brother after all." Yu Xinghai fell silent. Being the eldest means making concessions. He then patted Siwuya on the shoulder. "Let's not dwell on these disheartening matters. yours. I'll continue to look for ways to break the spell on you. No need to trouble yourself, elder brother. I will find a way to break the spell myself. After all, it is a divine spell personally cast by Master, and probably only he can undo it. Siwaya smiled and gave a formal bow to Yu Zhenghai. Farewell, elder brother. Seeing he did not wish to elaborate further, Yu Zhenghai did not continue to press the matter, and after nodding with a smile, he left the tranquil residence with Hua Chongyan. Meanwhile, in Evil Sky Pavilion, Lu Zhou stood up and walked to the table, looking at the large sheepskin ancient map spread out on it. When the remnants of the heavenly writing and the ancient sheepskin map were placed together for comparison, the only slightly clearer area on the ancient map was the Imperial Palace. Could this be the location of the heavenly writing remnants? He identified a crucial logic. Placing the sheepskin ancient map and the heavenly writing together, how could they not be related? Whether it's an ancient map or any other map, they all share one common and most important function: to mark geographic locations. Lu Zhou carefully examined the entire sheepskin ancient map, noticing that the areas left blank on the map were truly empty, showing nothing. The blurry areas had only slight contours. Fortunately, he was well acquainted with the overall framework of Great Flame. Even without explicit details on the map, he could guess the general layout based on the location of the Imperial Palace. Better to believe it exists than it does not. His deep voice, resonant with primal energy, emanated from the Eastern Pavilion. Zhao Yu. Upon hearing this, Zhao Yu, who was training with Little Yuaner, immediately turned and rushed towards the Eastern Pavilion. Little Yuaner, having nothing better to do, followed suit. Both arrived at the Eastern Pavilion and bowed to Lu Zhou. Disciple greets master. Lu Zhou nodded and instructed, send a flying letter to Jian Aijian and have him search for the items from Evil Sky Pavilion. Zhao Yu answered, we haven't been able to contact Jian Aijian in the past few days, and he hasn't replied to our messages. Little Yuaner spoke angrily. I knew the shameless guy would be disloyal. Lu Zhou pondered for a moment. From what he knew of Jian Aijian, he didn't seem like the type to betray trust, and he was always careful about preserving his own life, not the type to recklessly stir up trouble. The last message mentioned that Wei Zhuoyan had led troops to pacify Jingzhou, and it was possible that Li Brocade Clothes had gone as well. Could it be that he had joined them? Since we can't contact him, we should take the initiative to search. Zhao Yu, you go to the palace. Upon hearing this, Zhao Yu's expression changed slightly. My cultivation is still low. Why not let the fourth brother go? Lu Zhou looked at Zhao Yu with surprise. You're usually eager to undertake missions. Are you afraid? You're actually afraid? Zhao Yu nervously explained. I'm just worried about failing the task assigned by Master. Let's call old fourth. As you wish, Master. Lu Zhou watched her hurried and flustered departure. Clearly, she had something on her mind. Since the issue with Yi Tianxin was resolved, her loyalty had steadily increased, and it was the same now. Mentioning the palace made her nervous. Could it be she had connections there? Recalling that Zhao Yu came from an ordinary family, he had taken her and seeing her potential in cultivation. It seemed unlikely she had ties with the royal palace. It appeared I would need to keep a closer eye on her in the future. Being too strict might backfire. At this moment, Little Yuaner boasted, my Brahma Heaven Silk has made some progress recently. Oh, is that so? It's been a long time since I've coached you. Lu Zhou nodded. Being busy with other matters, he indeed lacked the time to guide his disciples. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Little Yuaner said, I would like to spar with you, Master, to identify my shortcomings through combat. Lu Zhou frowned upon hearing this. Such sparring between master and disciple wasn't really a contest. It was meant to be instructional, focusing on teaching rather than defeating the opponent, requiring a high level of cultivation and an understanding of the disciple's techniques and weaknesses to achieve its educational purpose. Considering his own level of cultivation, he thought it best to let her continue on her own for now. At that moment, Ming Shirin entered. Greetings to Master. Lu Zhou immediately issued an order. Send a flying letter to Jian Aijian, asking him to check if there is still anything from Evil Sky Pavilion in the palace. If he doesn't respond, you go there yourself. I will obey, Master, said Ming Shirin as he turned to leave, but Lu Zhou called him back. Your junior sister has made progress. Guide her more when you have the time. Spar with her. Ming Shirin nodded. I will obey, Master. Recently, I've been deeply studying the Bluewood technique and have made some progress. I hope Master can provide some guidance if possible. Upon hearing this, Lu Zhou's expression darkened. Presumptuous. Seeing this, Ming Shirin hastily knelt on the ground. I dare not, Master. I know my mistake. He regretted it, knowing his junior sister was the apple of their master's eye, which naturally allowed her to make such bold requests. Following her lead in asking was akin to seeking trouble for himself. Lu Zhou spoke indifferently. Go to your third brother. I will obey, Master. Duan Mushing's talent and cultivation were not inferior to Ming Shirin's. Without considering scheming, Duan Mushing was far superior to Ming Shirin. What if he also sought guidance? Lu Zhou thought of Hua Wudao, who was actually the most likely to seek a sparring session with him, especially since Hua Wudao had been dealing with a psychological barrier since his defeat 20 years ago. Who should guide Hua Wudao? Both Lin Luo and Pan Litian might not recover anytime soon. Lu Zhou stopped Ming Shirin again. Elder Hua made significant contributions in the battle at Lotus Platform. If there's nothing urgent, let let him rest well. After hearing this, Ming Shirin felt very puzzled. Why suddenly bring up Hua Wudao? He's in good health. Why would he need to rest? However, as a disciple, he had no choice but to obey, not daring to question. I will deliver the message. After the two had left, Lu Zhou returned inside. Little Yuaner's request reminded him that cultivation is indeed the foundation of everything. The problem is, if he buys the 8 methods unobstructed now, the cultivation increase might cause the price of tool cards to rise. He should stock up on some cards before that happens. Lu Zhou opened the store to check the prices. When did the prices go up? I just checked the prices not long ago. How have they increased again? Could it be that opening the box and obtaining the fragments of heavenly writing caused the increase? This was the only significant thing he had done recently. If that's the case, then his previous theories were inaccurate. That is, the usage, purchasing frequency, and cultivation increases are only one aspect. The most likely determinant of price is the benefit derived from using the system. Like an exam, it's easy to improve from a low score to a moderate high score, but much harder to achieve top marks, even though the knowledge continues to advance and become more formidable. It's good that prices increased. Constantly worrying is just tormenting oneself. Purchase the 8 methods unobstructed. Since the price has just increased, it wouldn't make sense for it to increase again immediately. Lu Zhou tapped on the system interface. Ding. Obtained avatar 8 methods unobstructed, costing 20,000 merit points. Use it. Saying this, he sat cross-legged and closed his eyes. He closed his eyes and quietly experienced the changes it brought to his body. For any cultivator forming an avatar, it is a process of refining both the physical body and the spirit, a transformation akin to shedding the old and donning the new. The transformation of the avatar is also a transformation of the cultivator. Through the refinement of cold and hot, substantial and insubstantial, external and internal, dark and bright, once the 8 methods unobstructed avatar is formed, the cultivator significantly increases their tolerance to these conditions. In other words, they become healthier, less susceptible to illness, and more capable of surviving in harsh environments. During the condensation process, if one cannot endure any part of it, it means the condensation has failed. However, Lu Zhou does not have this problem, as his unique method of cultivation sets him apart from others. Meanwhile, in a secluded palace within the divine capital, a woman in luxurious red clothing looked at herself in the mirror and then coughed weakly. A man wearing a strange mask stood behind her with his hands crossed behind his back. Molly, junior brother, you've really given me a difficult task, the masked man said expressionlessly. Molly smiled slightly and corrected, is junior sister. The masked man corrected without emotion. Just because the second prince has this hobby? Molly was silent for a long while. As long as it serves the purpose, I am willing to make any sacrifice. The Great Flame royal family is not as simple as you think. The 4th prince has returned, and he now has another competitor. I'd like to ask brother for help. The masked man spoke softly. I have already clashed with that old devil. The celestial beast was seriously injured and probably won't be able to fight again anytime soon. Molly sighed deeply. I didn't expect the old devil to have such means, but I still believe in you, brother. You are the first witchcraft genius in 300 years from Lulan, in the prime of your life. As for that old devil, the entire Great Flame cultivation world is waiting for his end. Once he dies, no one can stop my plans. I am still recovering from my injuries, so I'll have to rely on you for now. Just then, a maid's voice came from outside. Your Highness, the second prince requests your presence. He said he is eager to meet the cultivation genius you spoke of. Molly chuckled and looked at the masked man. Brother, I told you that there would be a place for you to shine in Great Flame. 2 days later, an unusual energy periodically changed in the eastern pavilion, sometimes cold and sometimes hot. Xiao Yu and others looked puzzled. What's going on? This fluctuation of energy, it must be someone condensing the 8 methods unobstructed avatar. Little Yuaner quickly added, Master is cultivating. Whatever strange phenomena occur around Master, just pretend you didn't see it. Xiao Yu nodded. Makes sense. Just pretend we didn't see anything. Soon, Hua Wudao appeared in their view, hands behind his back. With his broad experience, he naturally understood what this energy fluctuation meant. 8 methods unobstructed, he exclaimed, raising his eyebrows in surprise. Xiao Yu asked, Elder Hua, can you tell? Hua Wudao looked around at the forceful energy being emitted and explained, your cultivation is not yet sufficient to see clearly. The 8 methods unobstructed is actually a refinement of the body and will. A cultivator who successfully condenses the 8 methods unobstructed will significantly improve their cultivation. But think about it, the Pavilion Lord is already at the peak of the nascent divinity tribulation realm, the pinnacle of the 8th leaf. Why would he need to condense such a low-level avatar? Upon hearing this, everyone immediately showed an eager expression to learn. Why? Hua Wudao spoke confidently, to strive for perfection. In a battle between cultivators of equal cultivation level, setting aside weapons and armor, what do you think determines the outcome? Duan Mushing scratched his head. Is it luck? Xiao Yu and Little Yuaner nodded in agreement. Hua Wudao was momentarily speechless. It's skill and experience. Look at the primal energy fluctuations in the Eastern Pavilion, the alternation of cold and heat, the harmony of dark and bright. All are extremely even and stable. Cultivators with lesser talent tend to have turbulent primal energy energy during the condensation of their avatar, and any slight carelessness can lead to failure. Most can succeed in condensing the 8 methods unobstructed within 3 attempts. To succeed on the first try is to be a genius. On the third, well, it's mediocre at best. As soon as he finished speaking, a loud boom was heard, and 8 streams of energy in the eastern pavilion successfully converged, smoothly and harmoniously coming together, and then the atmosphere gradually stabilized. Duan Mushing was deeply moved. Elder Hua's explanation really opens my eyes. When I first learned the Heavenly One technique, it seemed incredibly difficult, but now when I practice the early chapters of the technique, it indeed feels much easier. I've also made significant improvements in my techniques and experience compared to before. Hua Wudao squinted his eyes and nodded. Exactly. Just then, Ming Shirin entered from outside. He looked towards the eastern pavilion with palpable relief. Elder Hua is absolutely right. I remember when Master was cultivating in the secret room, I accidentally disturbed him. You might not believe it, Elder Hua, but I couldn't withstand even one of Master's moves that opened the 8 meridians. If Master hadn't been merciful, I might have been seriously injured. Hua Wudao, with a grave expression, exclaimed, "That is a true master."